Hey there, I'm Mish. This is your Trek. I'm a Trekkie, so let's talk about Star Trek. So today's episodes that we were going to watch, that I did watch, that I actually like. One of them was I was kind of dreading watching it because I was like I just remember it being a really bad episode, but strangely enough, I enjoyed it. Don't know why though. I mean, there were still some questionable things that happened, but we get that in all the different episodes. I'd also be interested to see how I'm coming through on the other end of people's screens. I may have to rewatch because usually when it's in Wi-Fi, I get this little Wi-Fi signal up in the left-hand corner, and I'm plugged into a network. So don't know what's going on, but it is what it is. Nobody's watching right now, so I'm just rambling to myself. Okay, so first episode for today. We had Spectre of the Gun and episode Day of the Dove. Now, I've always enjoyed Day of the Dove. In fact, I especially liked Day of the Dove today. And we'll get to that in a moment. But Spectre of the Gun, I just remember this being a bad episode. And strangely, I kind of enjoyed it. Like I said in the opening, I didn't get bored with the episode. Because there's been some episodes, like I'm watching this to, I'm paying attention. I want to see what I'm catching now as an adult when I'm really focusing on the episode. And there's been some episodes that I've fallen asleep because they are so bad and so boring. But I didn't. Like, I was awake for the entire thing. And it's not that I was like totally intrigued in the episode. Like I was like, ooh, what happens next? What happens next? But I was like, interesting. Not a lot of notes, but I do have some notes. Some questions. So in this episode, Kirk and crew are basically told, go make good relations with this alien. And then the alien, in the process of attempting that, the alien puts them in this void of the Wild West, specifically the OK Corral. And then they're the Clancys, and they have to go up against the Earps and that whole Tombstone storyline. So now, in the episode, they fly and they have this little, kind of like this. It's this little satellite thing that won't let them pass. And there's like, go back from where you came. We don't want you here. And they even have a conversation. Well, there's a lot of Earth ships that have come by here, and we've never heard from them again. So it's like, and you're going to continue going? Like they just told you, don't come here. We don't want you here. But no. We're ignorant humans, and we're just going to force you to like us. But we come in peace. So they ignore the warning. They go to the planet anyway. They beam down, and they find themselves in a fog. And then, of course, the old town. That was really my only main problem with the story. I mean, the story doesn't really have a purpose. Like, it's just a story to fill space, and maybe that's kind of why I didn't really like it in the beginning. I mean, I do have a problem of how we get to this place, but it is what it is. I did notice, though, the sheriff sign where it says sheriff is actually in the Star Trek font. Never noticed that before. Of course, you got to point out that Chekhov is getting some action, more action than Kirk has gotten in a while. And and then of course towards the end, because they're playing the part of the Claytons, and everybody thinks that they're them, and it's like, oh, even he has the talk with the bartender. It's like, feel my clothes, your clothes, don't they feel different? Yeah, and even when they kill, their phasers are turned into um, uh, handguns, like from the time period. So and then of course Chekhov dies because he believes he got shot, and so then they figure it out. It's all a mind thing. So if we can figure out that the guns aren't really real and the bullets aren't real, then we really won't die. Okay, because Chekhov was playing the character of Billy, or one of the Billies, who actually survived the OK Corral, but he ends up dying. So they're like, oh, we can change things. Oh yeah, and of course Scotty being Scotty, loving the alcohol. I love how they pointed out, because even he's like, oh, you could get used to this. Not what I wanted, but I can get used to it. And I've been yammering here and there about the Vulcan every time, he does the mind link or the mind probe. Finally call it the Vulcan mind meld. And it stuck. He even uses the terms, your mind to my mind, your thoughts to my thoughts. They said it. Yes, they said it. Finally. Yeah. Now, spoiler alert, they survive. They get back on the ship, and Chekhov lives. Chekhov lives. Now, the little probe that had been following them and had been telling them, oh, hey, stay away, starts to overheat, and it explodes. Now, before it explodes, they're like, oh, something's happening with that. There's a power buildup, whatever. And Kirk's like, phaser guns, prepare to fire. Really, phaser guns? They've never used that term before. Phaser guns? That was dumb. I don't even care if you are trying to associate it with them actually having 6-shooters in the Old West. Yeah. So anyway, but instead he's like, hey, phaser guns, prepare to fire. And then it blows up. I would say, let's get us out of here so we're not affected by the blast. What a great idea. And then, of course, the aliens are like, oh, you're here for peace? Sure, come on down. I don't know. It wasn't a horrible episode. Not like it wasn't, it was, well, shoot. Okay, so it wasn't entertaining. I won't say the writing was horrible, but it wasn't bad. It was kind of a space filler. So it was kind of a blah episode. Like, not a good episode, not a bad episode, just kind of a blah episode. But I stayed awake for it. All right, on to the next one. So, Day of the Dove. I've always enjoyed Day of the Dove for different reasons. Today, we'll get to why it actually I like. So anyway, so Day of the Dove. Kirk responds to Kirk and crew respond to a distress call on a planet. They find out that the planet is barren. There's nobody there. There's no ship or space station or starbase or anything like that. And then the Klingons arrive, and the Klingon ship gets blown up, or at least injured. So the Klingons beam down, they get Kirk. All the Klingons end up on the Enterprise, and then Kirk actually destroys the ship because it was so bad. But he has all the surviving members, which was I think 38 surviving Klingons. So this is really a battle between good and evil, the Federation, the Klingons. but it's all controlled by this little twirly, I don't know how you describe it. Basically an alien, kind of looks like a flashy little twirly thing. Um, some funny things I hadn't noticed before. Well, of course, the first thing I always notice that I'm just like, that's so absurd, is they're still on the planet, and Kirk and Kang get to meet Kang. Kirk and Kang are arguing, and he's like, we're going to take you. You're going to beam us up to our vessel, blah, 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 blah. And Kirk says, go to the devil. Really? Is this because you couldn't say hell on TV? Like, go to the devil. And just, oh, I crack up at that. Now, of course, the Klingons, as opposed to the Klingons that were on K7 in Trouble with Triples, these Klingons are basically in blackface. And I know it's makeup. I'm totally not offended because I grew up with these Klingons. I get the point. They're not making fun of any race or anything like that. But I'm curious how long it will take for people to realize that all of the Klingons were white people who had makeup on, and not like the clamshell head or the turtle head of the Next Generation, but like just shoe polish on their face. If you're offended by that, oh well, you have your own issues to deal with. It's a TV fucking show, so get over it. But I'm just curious how long it will take people to figure that out and cancel this episode. And this episode is so important. Anyway, all right. So what's his name? Chekhov starts yammering about his brother Peter. I heard Peter, but then again, I don't know. Later on in the episode, Sulu actually pronounces it as Piotr or Piotr, something like that. But I don't know. English is my one and only language, except for a couple Klingon words. I heard Peter, but regardless, he's yammering about his brother. Oh, you Cossacks! Blah blah blah. You killed my brother, and then the Klingons put a little agonizer thing on his face, and he's like, ah! And you know what? It just happened to be the exact same agonizer from the Mirror Universe. Whoever noticed that? First time I noticed that. So, so basically, both sets of crews are being irritated by this twirly thing. They figure out that it's feeding off of the energy of their hate towards each other. In fact, it evens everything out. It actually traps 392 of the Enterprise crew members in the lower decks. Yes, they use the term lower decks. It's really cool. And so it's really 38 against 38. So the odds are even. The odds are even numbers, and all the phasers are gone. So they're just fighting with swords. And so they figure out what's going on. It's really this creature. Now, playing with the numbers, if there's an even 38 on either side, and there's 392 trapped, that means that there are, at this time of this episode, 430 crew members on the Enterprise. I like one scene. They're fighting, and this one Klingon, he's got these moves, and then he kind of jabs at this red shirt and gets the red shirt right here. Now I froze it. His sword actually didn't have a tip, so it actually looked like, if you freeze framed it and the sword is going into the chest, it actually looks like the tip is in. But it was so well done because you actually had the indentations, like he actually jabbed him. So I liked that. I liked that. We actually find out that Chekhov actually does not have a brother named Peter or Piotr. He is an only child. Sulu points that out. So that's kind of when they're like, why is he over exaggerating his hatred for the Klingons over a brother he never had? So let's see. When the Klingons are they're in the engine room and they turn off power to the rest of the ship. Did they only turn, because I was trying to figure did they only turn off the life support or did they turn off the power? Because the lights go off too. Yet you can still use the turbo lift. Chekhov in his a little snafu here. Chekhov in his crazed, I'm going to avenge my brother, gets Kang's wife, and he's he says, "You are not a human, but you are very, really beautiful." I suck at accents, but I just thought, and it was so funny because he's sitting there, and I just like, "You're very beautiful." Very, very beautiful. I know, I suck. Anyway, Kirk comes over and he pulls him away from the wife, and he goes up against the wall, and her makeup ends up on the wall because, of course, it's on his hands. Thought that was kind of funny. Let's see, and of course they beat this. Kirk finally is able to tell Kang, "Hey, this is what's going on. They're feeding off of our hatred. We need to just, ban." You say, tell them to go pound rocks. We need to, we need to be nice to each other because it's not us hating you and fighting you, and it's not you hating us to fight us. And so even Kang is like, "Hey, look, we have our own reasons for hating these guys. We don't need somebody feeding us to hate these guys or pushing us in that way. We already do." So now, and then of course they save the day. Oh, part of this, the Enterprise gets taken. Part of this, the Enterprise goes off into this void, and then comes back. So kind of questionable on that one, but that's okay. The whole concept was not a void, but it was basically like just traveling nonstop. So it was like we're never going to die. We're always going to be fighting. You never stop. Okay. This whole episode, when it comes to what's going on now, and I don't care your political viewpoint. I don't care if you're super conservative. I don't care if you're super liberal. I don't care if you're moderate. I see this little orb that you essentially, if you look at it from today's terms, you've got the Klingons. We're going to call them the left. Okay, actually, they're more warlike. Well, let's just call them the left. Okay, the Democrats, and then you've got the Federation. We're going to call those the Republicans. And I don't give a shit if you disagree with me on how I'm saying. This is just as an example. So just go with me. Republicans, Democrats. You pick which one. Okay. One group represents one group represents the other. And then you've got this little twirly thing that's making these two groups hate each other and fight each other for no reason. Now, could we say that this orb of hate, could we say that he is Chester Cheeto? Could we say that he represents that? Could we say that this alien represents the mainstream media? Could we say that this alien represents the DNC or the RNC? You name, like, the leaders of those groups. Doesn't matter. where you sit politically. You have one group, like right now, you have one group that hates another group. We all fight for no dumb reason. You know, just about 10 decades ago, not 10 decades, 10 decades, about 10 years ago, it was not like this. Not like this at all. I remember, I'm old enough to remember where it was okay to disagree and not hate the other person. I know I'm getting political, but this is the perfect episode that really kind of pinpoints this. I remember, I'm old enough to remember, I can disagree with somebody and still like them. I have friends that make me look like a Proud Boy. And then I have friends that make me look like a bleeding heart liberal. Okay? So, but you know what? I like them all. They all have good, and I don't care what you think. I believe that they all have something good to say. Okay? I have my liberal friends, I have my conservative friends, and we all get along. Like, yes, it would be nice if we actually all got along, but you have this one, you have these groups, and you could put any name you want on it, that's just feeding. I'd like to say that this group is more the mainstream media. Okay, feeding us this information that just we hate each other. Because in reality, if we got better news from either side, I think we'd be a little bit more open. Okay. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I think that this episode is a great metaphor for that. That's, at least that's what I read into it. I don't know what you read into it. Anyway, so that's all I have to say about that. Tomorrow's episodes, I do not know if I'm going to be able to go live tomorrow. I've got, I'm going to be traveling, but actually this evening, I'm getting on a jet plane. Getting on a jet plane. Let's see, where's my calendar? Okay, so for tomorrow, for the world is hollow and I have touched the sky. This is a classic McCoy episode. I don't care what you think. I actually like this episode. So it'll be interesting. I haven't seen it for a while, so it'll be good to watch it again. And then the Tholian Web, you get another great classic episode of the Tholian Web. Saturday, Plato's Stepchildren, Wink of an Eye, and the Empath. So we have Plato's Stepchildren gets a lot of shit, but I've always liked the episode. Can't remember Wink of an Eye, and the Empath. I just remember that being one of the worst. And then, of course, Sunday is Elaine of Troyes and Whom Gods Destroy. So at some point, I might get online because I'm going to be on the East Coast with some Star Trek friends. So we might actually do this. But please keep up with your Star Trek watching. If I'm not on tomorrow or this weekend, I will definitely be back on Monday. And that is all I have to say about that. So if you have hung out this long and you've watched off the air, because I've had a 0 the entire time, so I know nobody's watching this live, please like, share, subscribe, let your friends know about this. I'm live most of the week to talk about the Star Trek episodes because we are watching a year of Trek, 15 episodes a week. It's fantastic. We're coming to the end of season 3 of Star Trek, the original series. So we're going to be going into the next generation here soon. You got to watch the movies. All right. There you go. Live long and prosper.